The topic of my show and tell is my coffee mug. Well, more specifically, it's actually what's written on my coffee mug. Historic Route 66. Now, I'm sure you've probably heard of Route 66. It's the main street of America, the Mother Road. And the reason they call it this is because it passes through the main street of every town along the route. Now, Route 66 was established in 1926, and it stretches from Chicago, Illinois, through Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. And Nami, if you walked that full length of Route 66, you would be 20 years old. I didn't walk it, so I'm not 20. But this past spring, my better half, Trish, and I, we drove Route 66. And in fact, we actually drove right across North America from California to Newfoundland. Now, the reason for our road trip is because I went shopping and I bought a new toy. I got myself a 2011 Camaro SS, and I bought it off eBay down in Las Vegas. And thanks to the dwindling U.S. economy, I actually saved over $20,000 buying that car in the U.S. versus buying it here in Canada. So we flew to Las Vegas, got the car, but rather than driving that car back the old boring interstate, we decided to make a trip out of it, a real adventure, and take it home via Route 66. And what I'm going to do now is share some of the highlights of that trip, because this was the best road trip ever. We got to drive the old 2-lane highway, eat at mom and pop diners, and sleep in roadside motels. So this is where our trip started. We're actually doing the trip backwards, because normally the old times they went from east to west, but we're going west to east. So right here, this is the Santa Monica Pier in California, and it's the end of the Route 66 trail. Now, in busy cities like LA, the old Route 66 is built over with new roads and towns, so the original 2-lane highway is non-existent in places like this. But once you get out into the desert, this is what it looks like. This is the way a lot of the roads are between the towns on Route 66. And it's in those towns where you see some very unique and interesting attractions, such as the Wigwam Motel in San Bernardino, California. And this is where we actually spent our first night of our Route 66 trip. And as you can see, all the rooms are made out like wigwams, and it was by far the most unique motel that I've ever stayed at. From California, we headed on to Arizona, and this was the best part of the Route 66 trip. This was my real favorite, and it was just like going up to the wild, wild west. And as you can see right here, we're up in the mountains here. That's the hood of the car. I've got pointed at it. That's the edge of the pavement, and no guardrail. So if you go over the edge, you're gone. So it's you're back in the wild, wild west. Our first stop in Arizona was the town of Oatman, and this is a real old-fashioned western town. And all the locals there, they call this place Jackass Junction. And you'll see why in my next slide. In Oatman, they let the donkeys just walk free. So you have to be careful when you're driving through the town that you don't see a donkey, or a jackass in this case, and that's literally a jackass. That's at the end of the hood of the car. Now, I fit right in Jackass Junction, and I made myself some new friends while I was there. So this was one of my favorite places, and it's just a one-street town, and they got it done out like the old western buildings. So it was a really cool spot. Now, after Oatman, another favorite stop is the Huckleberry General Store. And there's a lot of cool stuff here. And they've got it done up just like it was back in the mid-1900s. And this is really like going back in time. I mean, a lot of places have old cars like this. So anybody who's a car fanatic, really into antique cars, Route 66 is the place to go. And after Arizona, we headed to New Mexico, and one of the places we stayed at was the Blue Swallow in New Mexico. And this place, they've got murals painted all over the walls. And this was a really popular Route 66 stop, especially back in the mid-1900s. Here's some of the murals. Painting from the 1969 movie Easy Rider. And that made Route 66 famous. I'm sure a lot of people have probably seen that. It was actually after watching that movie it motivated me to get my first motorcycle, which I did. And here's some paintings from the Cars movie, another famous Route 66 movie from modern times. And we actually seen the original truck that this character was modeled off. Here it is right here. Tow-mater. That's what Disney used to model the cartoon character for the in the Cars movie. And that's parked in Missouri, an old gas station there. Another Route 66 car attraction is the Cadillac Ranch. And this is in Amarillo, Texas. And these are literally just Cadillacs stuck nose down in the ground and enough spray paint on them to preserve them for a lifetime. And this is a very unique piece of Route 66 artwork. And Route 66 is just full of all kinds of weird and wacky things such as this. Another example, the world's largest pop bottle. And this is outside of Pop Store in Oklahoma, where they serve over 400 different kinds of soda pop. And there's me in comparison to this gigantic pop bottle. We've got the Gemini Giant outside the Launching Pad Drive-In in Illinois. So when you're driving through, obviously you see this great big fella. You have the world's largest Route 66 sign in Oklahoma. Of course, Lorna would like that. There's a whole biker rally just pulled in at that same spot. We have the world's largest rocking chair in Missouri. Why? I have no idea, but it's there. And last but not least, we have the world's longest map of Route 66 in Arizona. Now, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I'm only scratching the surface here. There's so much stuff here that I could talk about Route 66. I mean, if I were to cover it all, we'd be here all night, and you'd miss Republic of Doyle. So I'm just going to clue it up at this. But again, there's so much history and things to see on Route 66. And it was a lot of fun driving through and seeing all this. There's a lot of Americana. And I definitely recommend that you check it out. I mean, get your kicks on Route 66. It's something that you can consider adding to your bucket list. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I think it was the best road trip ever. So thank you very much.